Now that you are slowly understanding what patriarchy is, let's do a quiz. Can you help identify the patriarchal institutions in society? Give me your answer. You are right if your answer is E. Indeed, all the institutions listed are patriarchal. Be with me in the next screens to understand in what ways they are patriarchal. Let's look at family. The institution of family is very patriarchal. We have seen in the earlier discussion that our men are considered the heads of families and households, and they control women's labor, their reproduction, sexuality, mobility. Men control most of the economic resources and decision making. The family is also the most important institution of socializing the next generation in patriarchal values. Boys learn to assert and dominate within the family, and girls learn to submit to authority. Again, the extent and nature of these controls may differ in different families, but the principle remains quite similar. Let's see the next institution, religion. Most modern religions are patriarchal, or let me say, all modern religions are patriarchal. In fact, they make patriarchy out to be God made, supernaturally ordained. The feminine principle of power, which seems to have existed in most societies before the coming of institutionalized religions and patriarchy, has been gradually weakened. Goddesses have been gradually replaced by gods. All major religions have been created, interpreted, and controlled by men and upper caste men. In none of the present day religions can a woman become the head of any religion. She cannot become a pope, a Shankaracharya, a Dalai Lama, etc. Man is created in the image of God. In common parlance, we all know God is masculine. If God is He, then of course He is God. Isn't it? In some South Asian languages, the words for husband are the same as Lord, Master, or God. Religions have defined morality, ethics, behavior, and even education and law. They have defined the duties and rights of men and women and relationships between them. Most societies continue to follow these religions. In every religion, women are considered to be inferior, sometimes even impure, and sinful. Religions have created double standards of morality and behavior. Some religious texts even justify the use of violence against women, especially against deviant women. Religious leaders have defined women's sexuality, and they try to control women's reproduction and sexuality in many different ways. Educational institutions and knowledge systems are also patriarchal. The very system of knowledge in most educational institutions are male dominated and controlled by men. Originally, religions started formal schools, and girls were not allowed in them. Let me give you an example I have heard in Hinduism. In Hinduism, women and Shudras of the lowest strata of human beings were not even allowed to listen to religious texts or Vedas. Those in power knew that if women and Shudras got educated, patriarchy and caste system would crumble. So they were kept uneducated and subordinated. Therefore, education has been dominated by men, and it has also played an important role in perpetuating the power and hegemony of the dominant class, caste, and race. I was shocked to read recently that in Harvard University, women were admitted 234 years after the men were admitted. And of course, Oxford and Cambridge universities took longer to allow women to enter, over 260 years. Since education is power, women have been deprived of it. Men have monopolized the area of creation of formal and organized knowledge and symbol systems. Therefore, most knowledge, even that pertaining to women, has been created by men and therefore has a male orientation and bias. The next system controlled by patriarchy is the legal system. In most countries, the lawmakers are men. Most judges, lawyers, and other functionaries of the judiciary are men with patriarchal mindsets. Therefore, the legal system is quite often patriarchal and bourgeois. That is, it favors men and the economically powerful classes. Laws pertaining to family, marriage, and inheritance are very closely linked to religious beliefs that are already patriarchal. In South Asia, the man is considered the head of the household in every legal system, and he has more rights over the custody of children and property. The economic systems and institutions are also patriarchal and controlled by men. It is mainly men who control all these economic systems. They own most property, most businesses, and economic resources. They decide the value of different productive activities and of goods. They decide what will be produced and consumed. Under the patriarchal system, a lot of productive work is done by women, but it is neither recognized nor paid. Activities performed by women are low paid, and women are often the last to be hired and the first to be fired. Note that the women's role as producers and carers of children is not considered an economic contribution. Political institutions and systems are also patriarchal. Almost all political institutions in society at all levels are dominated by men. From the village councils to our parliaments to the UN General Assembly, it is the same. There are, in most countries, only a handful of women in most political bodies that decide the fate of our countries. However, in South Asia, there have been some politically powerful women such as Ms. Srimao Bandaranaike, Ms. Indira Gandhi, Ms. Benazir Bhutto, Ms. Khalida Zia, Ms. Sheikh Hasina, and several others. They could achieve these positions of power not because they were women, but because of their family connections. I find it interesting that in spite of being the only region in the world that has had so many women prime ministers, the percentage of women in our parliaments has never been more than 10% until recently, when in Nepal women were given 33% reservation in the parliament, and in Pakistan some reservation was given to women. Like me, do you find this paradox worth exploring? Well, it'll get clear to you as we progress through the module. Media. Most media in our countries are controlled and run by the so-called upper class, upper caste, and white men who perpetuate patriarchal values and thinking. Media are an important tool in the hands of men, upper class, upper caste, white men, to propagate class, caste, race, and gender ideologies. The portrayal of women by the media is often stereotypical and even insulting. Messages about women being sexual objects and men being macho, dominating, and violent are constantly repeated. And I think they are also insulting men. Let us look at the state as an institution. The state and all its arms are also male dominated and patriarchal in their ideology. The state defines women's roles and activities. For example, the control of women's reproduction through family planning policies and programs. These state-run family planning programs are always aimed at women, as though reproduction is solely the women's responsibility. And then, sadly, most NGOs and civil society organizations are also dominated by men and follow patriarchal cultures. This is not surprising because all of us come from patriarchal families, religions, and societies. And we have all internalized patriarchal norms and values. In the absence of strong anti-patriarchal practices, patriarchy continues unchallenged. Cultural norms, practices, and traditions are also patriarchal. Let me ask you a question. Can you tell me the origin of the word husband? Any idea? Well, husband is the same term as in animal husbandry. So it means manager, controller, and domesticator. I want to make the point that even our language does not convey equality, not even between a husband and a wife. What about your own languages? Does the equivalent of husband denote equality? Note your response and share it in the discussion forum. Our constitutions say men and women are equal. However, our languages, practices, and behaviors speak of and promote inequality and hierarchy. Let me give you another example. Suppose I'm a Hindu girl and I'm in love with a Hindu man. And we both study in the same university. We walk together holding hands. Sometimes it is he who rides the motorcycle and I sit behind. Sometimes I ride and he sits behind. But if now these two equal beings decide to get married in the Hindu tradition, the entire notion of equality will disappear. How? Let's see. Like in a Christian wedding, the girl will be given away by the father to the bridegroom. In Hindi we call it Kanya Dan, donation of the daughter to her husband. Immediately after the giving away ritual, the wife touches the feet of the husband. The husband puts sindoor or vermilion in the parting of her hair as a sign of marriage. There is no such sign on the body of the man. Although it is not legally mandatory, most women take their husband's last name all over the world. I really do wonder why educated women go through these patriarchal customs and rituals and begin a patriarchal life. Why do we think we cannot challenge these practices? Why are we scared? In my life, I have changed a few things and nothing harmful happened to me. Had patriarchy been confined to the family, we could have perhaps got rid of it by now. In families where husband and wife are sensitive, we can treat girls and boys, men and women equally. But it is not easy to change in all the other institutions outside the family. Actually, there is hardly any place where women are treated equally. Patriarchy, friends, is a tightly knit net that we encounter in every institution, in most countries. No country has fully abolished patriarchy in reality. Almost most of them have outlawed it through their constitutions.